Okay, I remember reading that you compared not compared, but you spoke about your narrative
Yes.
in terms of Satyajit Ray's film narratives
Yes, right.
at some place. I bet you didn't explain that really. So I was very curious to know how you made that.
With regards to Ray, I'm thinking more in terms of pacing
Yeah.
and the build-up of incident,
Yeah.
so that it's working on you on the most obvious level, on an aesthetic level. His camera work is fantastic.
Yeah.
You think of something like Jal Saga,
Yeah.
where there's this amazingly lucid, beautifully lit scenes, like up on the roof and then
Yeah.
inside the music room itself. There's one scene where elephants just go by, but he's not making a big deal about it. It's just, so it's working on that level, and it's only with time that you realize that he's evoking a vanished and vanishing world.
Yeah.
A somewhat oppressive world,
Yeah.
but it's fading away, and that's the
Yeah.
sadness comes in there. So I like this idea of working in a way that's very patient,
Yeah.
because I want to insist that if you're making a work of art for someone and you're going to take a certain amount of their time, a 2.5 hour film is long, and a standard novel is 300 pages. It'll take a couple of days or more than that to read. You want, I want to make it memorable.
Yeah.
So Ray is one example of somebody who trusts you enough to slow down, and this is also true of Charulata, and this is also true of Pata Panchali, and it's that it's all, he is going not for the impact, but for the resonance, to have it echoing in your being after you have experienced it.
Yeah.
And very much the same is true of Fellini, whom I adore.
Yeah.
And
I was
if-
going to come to Fellini actually, but I'll stay with Ray for a moment.
I'll stay with Ray, yeah.
What are you? Can you tell me about your favorite Ray moments? Whatever comes to mind, whether or not linked with your book in any way.
There is there's a moment in Aparajito, that's what it's called,
Aparajito.
Aparajito, I believe, where that's a third of the
Yeah.
Pata Panchali series, of the world of the
Yeah.
Apu series,
Yeah.
where there's a woman on a street tram in Calcutta, and the train is pulling away, and we're just like following her from outside the tram because she is facing out from the end of the street tram. That shot is so magical because the first thing I just asked is, where's the camera? How's he doing this? He's on a trolley. It's some kind of tracking shot. But it's what you always dream of when you're going through everyday life. How can I follow that shot? We can do it in filmmaking. We can do it in literature. And in everyday life we cannot. If a flock of birds suddenly comes up here, we wish we were airborne in a camera. We could go with them and just go in that swoop like that. You can't do that unless you have a $1 million set and a crane.
Yeah.
So I love that. But I love that particular moment. I love the early morning scene in Jalsagar, up on the roof of the palace, where this guy is basically just like the house he's in. He's crumbling, but it's in such splendid light, and it's like an infinity of gray tones, So I think I'm drawn to sort of camera movements, swooping camera movements. I actually remember one scene in Pata Panchali where the very, very old aunt, the one who's about to die, where she's just sort of like walking across the frame so slowly, but it's such a wide shot that it's like you could take every single frame of that shot and it's like a Cartier-Bresson photograph because each one is just perfect. It's like a series of decisive moments. Very, very quiet, but the framing is so ideal. And I think this is just sort of the mental space in which I'm marinating when I'm sitting down to write, I'm not thinking very, very much about other books. I'm thinking about how do you create an emotional space by means of visual situation, visual, so, but visual description.
Okay. And 8.5, that's the other
Yeah.
movie you speak
Yeah.
of when you speak of open
Open
cities.
City, yeah.
So,
I think people always find it bizarre when I say the biggest artistic influence on Open City.
I did find it bizarre. I
Yeah.
could see Ray. I could totally see
Yes.
Ray, but
Yeah.
I'm
8.5 and La Dolce Vita. This idea of a series of linked anecdotes
yeah.
connected to each other by a narrator, Guido and Marcello, who is likable but a bit of a jerk, who's knowledgeable about the world, a little bit cynical, who's a stand-in for the creator of that work.
Yeah.
And the point is his adventure. Open City takes place over the course of a year. La Dolce Vita takes place over the course of a day and night. These are Dantean journeys, through the levels, through the layers of the underworld. And in this case, the underworld is his own mind. But just this belief that if each anecdote has the right weight and it's well chosen, then it hangs together as a narrative. It's that sort of belief, which is also the story of the Odyssey on a much grander scale. But what I loved about both 8.5 and La Dolce Vita is that they're both so intimate, without making a point or declaring a point of view, a set of beliefs. Description, describing the world so that you're there. And then the one last thing about Fellini's work also is that Marcello Mastroianni is such a superlative actor, so amazing, so realistic that most films of that time period, the acting is actually quite bad. They're sort of wooden, but Marcello just feels like these characters. He is Guido and he is Marcello.
Yeah.
And that matters to me because as a writer, I'm also very interested in realism. I want Julius to really, really, really be real, to have the small habits of a real human being, to not have him as a stand-in for ideas, but to have him be himself. So that kind of layering of character I also learned from Fellini / Marcello Mastroianni.
What can one thing that the novel can do that cinema cannot?
Novels are cheaper to write. You can create these amazing scenes
Come on, give me
for very
another
little
one.
money. What can the novel do? I really love the work of Michael Haneke, and I love the work of Krzysztof Kieślowski. Kieślowski is dead.
Yeah.
But those are two of my favorite contemporary filmmakers. And it's actually kind of odd because Kieślowski, by wonderful coincidence, shares my birthday. And Julius, I gave him an entire backstory that's not in the book. But Julius shares a birthday with Fellini. It's in January 23rd, something like that. But I remember when I was doing the back biography of Julius that would never make it into the novel, the birthday I gave him was shared with Fellini. When I look at a really good film by Kieślowski or by Haneke, I don't know that there's anything that a novel can do that a film cannot.
Yeah.
Most films fall short of that level of intricacy and depth and feeling, because you could say that what a novel can do is take us into interior states in a very complex and intricate way that film cannot. But I think that something like Kieślowski's Decalogue or Three Colors Red or Blue or Haneke's White Ribbon or Cachet or Code Unknown actually are better than most novels. They're better than the vast majority of novels. And it's funny because Kieslowski stopped making films just before he died. He said he was frustrated that films could not achieve what novels could.
Really?
Yeah.
I didn't know
Yeah.
this.
And I thought, no, you're wrong. You came close. You surpassed it.
Yeah.
So.
I read somewhere that you listen to a lot of music, and you also do listen to Hindi film music.
Yeah.
Or what do you make of it? Do you listen to the new stuff, or
Some of it is very good, you know.
do you listen to more of the new stuff, or
Some of the new, I don't actually know the new stuff very well. I mean, I hear it sometimes, at weddings,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
everybody likes a Desi girl,
Yeah.
So it's fun party music, but R.D. Burman is great, and you listen to Lata Mangeshkar and Asha Bhosle. Yeah, that stuff is beautiful. It's very evocative, and you can just tell, even without knowing the language, the depth of feeling behind it. And I actually really like A.R. Rahman. I think he's immensely gifted, immensely talented. So yeah, I was just saying the other day that, people might find it cheesy, but I like the Tal
Yeah.
soundtrack because there's a kind of just open-hearted composing that happens in it, and he allows himself to be emotional, and something about it works for me in a way that it works. It doesn't feel exaggerated. If I'm watching Shah Rukh Khan on screen,
Yeah.
he only has 6 emotions, and all of them feel exaggerated, and the plots are not particularly good. But the music on every soundtrack, there'll be like that one great song. And if you listen to it by headphones, you can tell the production values are amazing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like the masala music.
Great.